What is going on, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you are watching us. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and on the Twitter at the 1010XL Gators channels. Make sure you like and subscribe anywhere you get us there. Before we start and say our whole spiel on everything that's happened in the world of the Gators in the last couple of days that we have got to catch you up on, remember, we will still be giving you a post-game show Friday night around 7:30-ish whenever the game goes final. Graham and I will try to get to you a post game for about 30 minutes before we catch the Indiana Notre Dame game in a perfect world. And that'll be that. So we appreciate everybody that's hopped on and liked and subscribed, and all the people that have been continuing to grow what we've been doing. So we definitely appreciate everybody that's been watching us over really this entire football season. Graham.
Yes, sir.
Lots of things to discuss. Where do you want to go first? When we have Damian George, Austin Armstrong, Justin Trato is going to LSU. For the people that don't know, I made the joke about Pyburn being Justin Trato. If you know, you know. And then Shamar James' future still up in there. Where should we? Or we can talk about the bowl game. Where do we go first?
Let's start with Jack because that's the guy that people have had the most to say about, good or bad. Yeah, I agree with you, Dylan, for what you said last episode. It's like this is not, Sharif Floyd that just left the program, right? This is not, and even on the current team, this is not Tyreek Sapp or Caleb Banks leaving the team, right? Like, this is a guy that was a solid, aggressive, good tackler on first and second downs and was really good in run support and could blow up some edges and stuff and could blow up some lead blockers coming in for sure. But then on third down and obvious passing situations was not going to be the primary guy to come in and provide you a pass rush. And that's where you make your money in college football and the NFL is rushing the passer. So, look, would I rather him be on the team than on LSU's team? Yes, of course. Does this have a devastating impact on how Florida's 2025 season is going to go regardless? No, it is not. Do they have plenty of dudes in that room to make up for it and hopefully this year even elevate more? Yes. Your thoughts? I believe you're going to agree with everything I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather him stay, but I'm not losing sleep, and I'm not. It's not like the when last year when Etienne hit the portal and there was a big gasp of oxygen that left your body. You're like, dang, that's gonna be a hard replace.
Correct.
Now the other issue, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of over. I mean, it's got to do with playing time, and I'm sure that LSU gave him a little bit more money, and if he wants to do that, cool. You have the right to do that. But I'm not going to be tripping over that because there's plenty of guys in the portal that you got to get, and Napier hasn't done that yet. I don't understand. The portal's been open since last Monday, and it closes the 28th, which is next Saturday, 11 days from now. And Graham, correct me if I'm wrong. The only news that I've seen out of the portal that Florida's gotten is, hey, we got this punter from Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, we got to do something, man. And I was thinking about this too. This was last week. I was thinking, Florida's got an early bowl game date-wise. It's not playing all the way at New Year's. And I was thinking, is that going to be an advantage for them playing the bowl game on Friday and then having a week or 8 days for them to just go all in on the portal, be done with the season? You already pretty much know all the guys that are coming back on your team. All the guys that have been going back and forth. Damian George, is coming back. Jake Slaughter's coming back. Pyburn's gone to LSU. So you know the team that you're going to have next year. And I was thinking, is that going to be an advantage for Florida playing the bowl game on Friday and then having a week to hit the portal? But then again, it's like, okay, you got the 4 playoff games this weekend. So you're going to have 4 teams that are going to have their season ended. And those teams are relatively the same as you, a little bit better for what their talent is. So, I mean, they're going to be fighting for the same guys. I just don't understand what Napier's doing, taking the slow approach to get guys. I mean, it baffles me, man, that we're a week into this, 8 days into this, and we still haven't heard anything splash wise on who we're getting in the portal.
This has been his MO every year in the portal, has it not? Every year that he's been the coach, because I mean we got to face it. Before this season, the last 2 years ended in disappointment, right? And with those 2 years, the thinking at the end of the season was, man, they got to go hit the portal really hard and get some immediate help at some big time positions of need. And a lot of times they ended up doing it, and the guys they ended up getting, to his credit, have for the most part ended up being really solid players. But I think the really aggressive splash, get everybody of consequence in the portal type of approach that you and I have talked about this offseason, or at the end of this season, going into the offseason, other people have talked about, other podcasts and media and whatnot have talked about in years past in the Napier era. It's really just never happened. So I think at this point we kind of know what he is in the portal, which is quality over quantity, which is fine. I don't think they don't need 8, 9, 10 guys in the portal, but they do need like 4 to 6, I would say, at certain positions of dire need, right? I would absolutely say they need a right tackle in the portal to compete for that spot. I think Cameron Waits will probably get a chance to compete because he originally started the year last year before Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon took that spot. I absolutely think they need at least one receiver, if not 2. Eugene Wilson coming back and Vernell Brown coming in changes the room a little bit, but they got to have at least one portal wide receiver, if not 2. They need 1 or 2 bodies on the defensive line, if not more. Those are the main positions. I might be missing 1 or 2 that most people would agree they need. But the point is, like, they need 4 or 5 guys that you know are going to be immediate starters this coming year and are going to make a significant impact. And you would think with the amount of time we've had already since the portal window has opened up, that at least 1 or 2 of those guys would have been inked already. And it's disappointing that that's not the case. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I'm not hitting the panic button yet because, again, I think it's quality over quantity. They don't need a bunch of numbers. They just need high-quality players. But, look, man, you're not wrong. You don't have a ton of time here to sign these guys. Johnny's saying I think these portal players are taking multiple visits to different schools. Yes, that a lot of them certainly are. And again, this is why I'm not hitting the panic button yet. It doesn't mean Florida's going to sign nobody. They're going to sign people in the portal. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, LSU, for whatever we think about Jakeem Jackson and Jack Pyburn, they're signed already. LSU's already gone and gotten them, right? So where are the 1 or 2 guys already that Florida should have already signed? I'm not panicking yet, but I'm concerned.
Yeah, I saw Hank told me this. I think David Waters said this, that the 2 receivers that Florida was targeting, one committed to Texas Tech and the other went to Iowa State, I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know their names. So it's like, okay, if those guys are going to those schools, how highly coveted were they if they're going to those 2 kind of schools? Which I kind of see that point too. I mean, you never know, man. There's so much that a dude could have just straight up go to a school because of money. And the problem that I heard Colorado State's coach say this yesterday, I think this was on Twitter, where I saw where he's like, the problem that you're having with a lot of these, and Florida's not having this issue right now, but why some kids are just hitting the portal is solely based on money, because they're having an independent agent tell them, hey, I know you don't want to leave, but if you do put your name into the portal, X, Y, and Z schools are going to give you 150, 175, 200, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
So they're putting their name in the portal just for that specific reason, which we know is not the intent of what it should be. And then these agents are screwing these kids, giving them, a 10, 15, 20% agent fee, which we know all is dumb. But Yeah, I mean, it's still just surprising that we sit here 11 days and, it could change. If Florida plays well in the bowl game, which, I mean, they should, they're still a 13, 14-point favorite. Tulane's playing their backup quarterback, and they've had a lot of guys at the portal, and Florida's having all their guys play. It's, I mean, we all have the agreement, I'm sure, that Florida should win this game by around 14, 20 points at ease. And Lagway's going to do his thing, and then he will probably be sitting in the fourth quarter, if I had to guess. So, I don't know how much the ball game's going to factor, but man, if DJ Lagway plays well, and it's something you add to that resume for all these recruits to see, if you're a receiver, I don't know how, if you are a receiver and you don't want the ball, and you want the ball, how this does not look at you, top of mind when you're picking, a lot of these schools.
Well, something to think about in the Florida receiver room, to be fair, because that's been a narrative, is what you've just said, is like, how would you not want to come play for DJ Lagway? I agree with that, generally speaking, but it's not like Florida's got a barren wide receiver room that you can just step into and be, without a doubt, the number one guy, right? Florida has some dudes at wide receiver. I mean, Aiden Mizell is going to be in that room. Eugene Wilson's going to be in that room. Vernell Brown's going to be in that room. Like, you got some dudes, and it's no guarantee you're going to be the number one or number two guy like Elijah Badger emerged to be last year, right? And you need to know as a portal guy, I believe, especially if this is your last stop, because I'm thinking they're going to get, assuming they do end up signing a portal wide receiver, it's going to be an upperclassman that's a junior, senior, someone that's played a lot of college football. And they need to look at that place and say, okay, I can be one of, if not the top contributor in this room because I'm thinking about Sundays. And that makes sense, and I get that. Like, think about how much money Elijah Badger probably made this season. He's kind of the main comp, but he's one guy. Like, Chimdike had a great season, and I would love to have another Chimdike type of guy, but if you're looking at transferring into Florida, you're trying to be the next Elijah Badger, not Chimdike. But again, I'm not panicking yet on that, because it's not like they need, like, recruiting in high school recruiting, like, they needed like a large quantity of guys from where they were before the LSU game kicked off, right? When they were ranked like 52nd or whatever. Like, they needed quality and quantity. So it was kind of panic button mode, like, y'all got a little momentum now, you better step on the gas. And they did for the most part. They missed out on a couple guys, but they made up a lot of ground. The portal, again, I think it's probably 4 to 5 guys total. Is the bowl game going to help get the momentum? I don't know. I hope so. Like, they'll win the game. By the way, did you see transfer portal king TJ Finley going to Tulane next year?
I did not. I know they got a quarterback. I didn't know it was TJ Finley.
He is on his fourth school, I believe. He went from LSU to Auburn to Western Kentucky and now to Tulane. I saw there's a Twitter account called The Transfer Portal, and it quoted the news that he was transferring, and it was like, "We love our regulars." Yeah, man, look, like, every coach, I think, at this point has given their 2 cents on the portal and how it's so broken right now, and all the things that need to be changed. And I know we were talking offline before the show that Napier kind of talked a little bit about it. And, that's all fine and good, and I agree with that. I agree that college football needs a commissioner. I agree that the calendar needs to be the college football calendar needs to be completely blown up and just, like, reset. I agree with all that, but for the here and now, while this is what it is and these are the rules, Florida's got to take better advantage of this. I mean, I've been hearing online that, Florida's not going to be outbid for anybody. And I've been hearing online that, this buyout money that was collected for Billy Napier is going to be used on these portal guys and these high school guys. Like, they certainly made up a lot of ground in high school recruiting, and that's great. But if that's the case, then some of these other guys that were where it was coming down to Florida and a couple other schools, be it portal or be it high school, some of these other guys should be Gators right now, especially in the portal, in my opinion.
Man, I'll tell you one thing. I was watching I watched all the high school state championships that happened last week. Shocking. The city of Miami dominated. They went 5-0, 4 of them blowouts.
Miami Northwestern handled reins, man.
Yeah, that score wasn't as bad as the score indicated. It was a 14-point game at half. Miami Northwestern was just better than them. But I watched the Jones American Heritage game. American Heritage running back Byron Lewis, I believe his name is. He's going to Florida, and then you have Vernell Brown from Jones, the receiver. Dude, in the second half, it got mid-third quarter, late third quarter, into the fourth quarter. They were trading blow for blow every time. It was like Byron Lewis scored a touchdown. Next drive, Jones would get the ball. Vernell Brown, they throw a deep shot. His quarterback could never hit with him on a deep shot. It was like the ball was underthrown or he kept getting PI. He had a lot of PI calls on the second half. But point being, you know that he's going to be a threat. He looked pretty good. Then Byron Lewis get the ball back next drive and go 80 yards. I'm just sitting here like, man, we got two dudes. You know, I don't know if they're going to be ready to play next year. You know, Byron Lewis with the running back room we have. But Vernell Brown definitely looks like he can be something in 2 to 3 years. And, you know, you don't know what it's going to be like once you get to college, man. I remember watching LJ McCray last year, and, you know, he was the 5-star, and they were playing St. Augustine, and he was just eating up their right tackle. And I don't know anything about St. Augustine's right tackle. If you went, you know, to play college football or anywhere, I'm like, this guy's a dude. You know, when you reach the state championship and you're still clearly above everybody else, you know, you're pretty talented. Now, I mean, what you're going to do with that talent is going to be different once you get to the college level. But that was my assessment from those two guys, what they did in that state championship game. I know you didn't really get to see much because you were on the road. Well, you were at Valdosta last weekend. You were
Yes, sir.
doing some work. But yeah, that was my, you know, be excited for what these high school guys are going to do, man. So we'll see. Austin
We have
Armstrong.
some returners to talk about.
What returners?
Not kick returners, returning players.
Oh yeah. Austin Armstrong, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's one.
The co-defensive coordinator, because I don't know if you know, Graham, at the University of Florida, we don't name offensive defensive coordinators. We've decided to change this. You know, college football has been played for 150 years, and we've done one way for all these years. But, you know, in Gainesville, we decided to do a little different because
2 defensive coordinators, 2 offensive line coaches.
Yeah. You know, who makes the plays? Well, it's a group thing. Nobody really that makes that decision. It's a group assessment. Well, part of that assessment will not be Austin Armstrong moving forward. I mean, my quick thought was either, one, he wasn't happy where he was, or 2, he wanted to be the main guy calling the shots, and it's probably number 2, calling the shots. And that's
Poor Cade, no los dos.
Some 2.
Why not both?
Why not? It could be that too.
He's not. He clearly isn't like if you're Austin Armstrong and you came where he was at Southern Miss, right, as a DC before.
Well, he was, and then he was at Alabama for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Florida.
So he clearly thought of himself as like this young and up and coming defensive guy that was going to be this great DC at Florida, and then who knows from there. I don't believe he anticipated in year 2 having a babysitter in Ron Roberts, right? That's clearly not how he anticipated things going. So not shocked whatsoever that he probably wasn't loving that situation and wanted his own defense back again. From his perspective, you know, he wasn't good enough, so I don't blame Florida for making changes. But from his perspective, I get why he didn't want to stay in that situation. And then again, like I just said, on Florida's perspective, like he had the entire defense to himself last year. He was horrendous. And this past year, first couple games of the season were horrendous. So, look, I'm not going to lose any sleep. We were talking about not losing a lot of sleep over losing Jack Piper, and I'm not losing any sleep over Austin Armstrong. I mean, when one time did he show that he was some defensive wizard that was, you know, recruiting a bunch of NFL talent, and these guys were just shutting people down, and they were elite on third down, and nobody was ever open, and they're not blowing coverages, and they're living like when did that ever happen?
Never.
That didn't happen at all. The only time that happened was late in the season this past year when certain individual young guys were just their talent was coming to fruition. Say what you want about Ron Roberts and Austin Armstrong and all that. The reason that defense stepped up late in the season was because of dudes. It was because Aaron Gates was coming on. Triquez Bridges ended up being a really good corner, even though he was originally a safety and had to move there. DJ Douglas was no longer on the field because that brother can't play, with due respect. Tyreek Sapp became a really, really good edge rusher. Caleb Banks was looking like freaking college Aaron Donald. Like, those dudes showing up and playing and making plays, and Dijon Johnson ended up doing a really good job for the most part, shutting down one side of the field. That's why that defense came on. Had nothing to do with Austin Armstrong, respectfully.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Billy Napier kept hinting that something changed that first bye week. I wonder if that was the change that was made in the bye week. He said practices were more competitive. They did this, they did that. He gave a lot of coach speak. I'm tying 1-on-1 together. I'm of the firm belief that was more of the decision that, hey, Austin Armstrong is going to take a back seat now as a defensive guy. The other guy's going to take over, and let's roll with this and see how it works. And he made I believe that's the adjustment he made, and that's the adjustment he made, and it worked. So, I mean, the main reason that Florida got him from Alabama was because that at Alabama, he was this up-and-coming guy, and he was going to be the defensive coordinator there at Alabama. That was what the future looked like. So if that was what it was going to look like, well, why don't Florida just get him now as defensive coordinator and steal him and see if it works? And it didn't work. I mean, being 29 years old coordinator, dude, that's pretty wild. I mean, you're not even 7 years difference between the guy calling the shots and the players.
Especially when you look like a middle schooler.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he looks exactly like Kirby Smart. And I know his dad was.
He looks like what Kirby Smart looked like probably in middle school.
Yeah, the chubby Kirby Smart.
The Chef Boyardee Kirby Smart.
But his Armstrong's dad was a coach, and he had been around ball for a long time. So I mean, you can't put an age on it, but 29 is still young. I don't know.
We don't have a toolbox. We have a tool shed.
Yeah. Remember his first press conference?
That's what that was from. We have a tool shed.
That's what it was. Man, oh my gosh. Like, there's Dan Campbell's press conferences, and then there was whatever he did. And then, that's fine when you're.
I remember saying in Austin Armstrong's first press conference when he said that, he did that a lot of football coaches love to do this. They want to sound really smart. And he did that whole thing where he just threw up a bunch of football lingo.
Yes.
And he just said a bunch of words that don't mean anything.
That nobody.
It's one of those things where if you don't know football very well, like, that's going to sound smart and sophisticated. And I remember being like, I don't know about that, man. Like, that doesn't feel like really good D coordinator talk. That feels like a guy that's trying to put on a show for the media and sound really intelligent. And I remember when that clip came out and people were talking about it, whatever, I distinctly remember quoting the tweet and being like, in a couple of years, this is going to look really great or really terrible.
Yep.
And it looked really terrible. So,
well, I mean, it's not like one way. Those things usually don't work. They're not like, it's just middle of the road. He's just a guy. Like, no, it's either extremely one way or the other, the pendulum. All right. Last thing before we roll. What do you want to see in the bowl game, man? I want to see more than 10 yards.
Wait, no. We got to talk about some of these returning guys.
What?
We've been doom and gloom a lot of this episode. We need to talk about some positives.
All right. Damian George is back.
Like,
Jake's
good guard, not incredible. The main reason I think it's good to have him back is just for continuity purposes. Just to do this because you're definitely going to have a new right tackle. So being able to keep your right guard the same, I think, is advantageous for the Gators. I think that's good that whoever's going to be the new piece on that offensive line, because it looks like the interior and hopefully Austin Barber as well is going to pretty much all stay the same. your right tackle is going to be the new guy. So having the guy right next to him being somebody that's been in the system for multiple years and can help him out a bit, especially in camp, I think is going to be really, really advantageous. Jake Slaughter coming back is not being talked about enough in not just us, but like generally speaking. Like I know it just came out last night. Dude, he's an All-American, man.
Yeah. Well, he's a center, so he's not sexy. If you're a receiver, everybody would be talking about it.
But I mean, my God, does he make a difference, right? I mean, you and I are in Jacksonville, and clearly we watch the Jaguars. Like, think about last year when Luke Fortner was at center for the Jaguars, and he was just getting beat every time because he's small and weak and doesn't really win battles up front. Think about how much of an issue that caused for the Jaguars last year trying to run the football. That was really problematic. And the Gators, I mean, this guy, getting Jake Slaughter back is, for this upcoming season, is not totally dissimilar from, we didn't know it at the time, but how big of an addition Osiris Torrance was going to be when Billy Napier first got him from Louisiana and how good he was.
Well, I mean, if you build an offensive line, the number one thing you start with is your center. And when you trust your center is the one that makes all the line calls. Your center is the one that is the leader of the entire offensive line. And for a guy to be number one talented and for him to be coming back, that is a massive deal. I will say that.
And not only, but like, you just said it, the quarterback of the offensive line is the center, and he's the one that gets everybody ready to go. In the most important year for Billy Napier to win on the field and deliver results, you're going from who was probably going to be Roderick Kearney, who was going to be your center, who has been in the program for a couple of years but has never started, to a guy that started multiple seasons now, been an All-American.
No.
I mean, that's a gigantic difference. To your point, it's not sexy, but like I'm telling you guys right now, when the season kicks off next year and assuming health, when we get into week 3, week 4, week 5, if you start seeing again Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson getting 4, 5, 6 yards every time they touch the ball and really, that offensive line really moving people, think back to this, keeping Jake Slaughter. Like, that's really important. I know we were talking about in the portal, they need to do more work, and I wish they had finished signing day a little bit better. But the talent retention of guys like Slaughter does really matter, and Napier deserves some credit for
that. The only person's future's up in the air that we don't even know what he's going to do is Shamar James. I would expect, if I had to guess, he's going to hit the draft, unless he just gets paid a decent amount of money and, loves playing for the Gators. He might come back, but I don't know. It's still kind of weird that he's still kind of undecided. I wonder when they have to decide for when they have to declare for the draft. I'm going to look that up. I'm sure it's usually, mid-January?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Dude, I'm going to be honest, and full disclosure to everybody watching our show, because I know you guys want to watch us to be able to have some good opinions on this type of stuff. Hand up, ever since the portal and expanded playoff and with all the changes in college football the last couple of years, dude, thank you, Kevin, for complimenting my hat. Dude, my brain is like spaghetti when it comes to timelines on stuff now. It's just so jumbled up, man. Like, I just kind of let it. What I know right now in terms of timeline is when the portal window closes and Florida's got a lot of work to do in the next 11 days. That's what I know. In terms of declaring for the draft and stuff, I'm just kind of all over the place now. It used to always be nice and clean. We knew when things were, but it's a mess now, dude.
Yeah, I can't get it. The Google machine is not giving me a clear-cut answer. But anyway, God, if you get Shamar James come back next year too, that would be wild.
They got, like, I think with Shamar, he's kind of an interesting one, because I think he's one of the few guys that I would say, would love for him to come back. Like, I objectively want him to come back. But that linebacker room is so loaded that if he didn't come back, I don't think the world is ending, right?
No, I mean, it's not. But, I mean, dude, having Having Pup Howard, Shamar James, and Caleb Banks in that interior in the middle of your defense, that's a problem. That's a problem for anybody.
But to be fair, we go back to last season, and Shamar's not in the camp of some of these guys that started last year, the DJ Douglases and the Justice Boones, who should have never been starting. He's not in that camp because Shamar has been on the field and made plays. But Jalen says January 15th is a deadline for the draft.
Yeah, no, January. That's what I thought. Appreciate that.
So, but like last year, what happened midway through the year when they started playing better on defense, some of the young guys got in. Do we know right now that Miles Graham is not better than Shamar James?
No, and he played well too, man, when his number was called.
Athletically, in terms of ceiling, he's probably better. Now, he's less experienced, so I can't guarantee he'd be better this year. But, I mean, Miles Graham is a dude now. Like, he's really, really good. And the rest of that room is really solid as well. So, I don't want to sound dismissive of Shamar James. I don't want to sound like, I can take him, relieve him, whatever, who cares. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say if they lose him, it's not doom and gloom.
No.
Right? They got enough players to make up for that. So, that's all I got to say on Shamar. I hope he comes back, though. I think the room is objectively better with Shamar James in it.
Florida wins 31-10 Friday afternoon.
Bowl game?
Yeah. What do you think about the North Carolina game?
What's up?
So what do you think I'm talking about the basketball game tonight?
That's what's on my brain. 35-7.
Damn. All right.
They're going to spend. I mean, dude, they don't have Tulane didn't have a quarterback, man.
No. I don't know why, but every time I think that Florida's going to win big, I in this little speck in the back of my brain, I feel like the 2012 Louisville game, whenever we thought we were just going to roll into Louisville and just spank them, and then like first play, Boston crushes Teddy Bridgewater, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be one of those games. And then it was not one of those games whatsoever.
Well, Florida got the ball first in that game, and Jeff Driscoll threw a pick six.
Pick six. Yep, that's right. That's right.
I was at that game. I was at that game in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Man, that was a gross game, man.
Yeah.
But the only bright spot I remember is Andre DeBose had a kick return.
I don't even remember that.
But they were down by 1,000 when he did it.
So I was probably already asleep by then.
So, yeah, man. Zach is asking us about a couple of different guys. Dane Key.
I don't know anybody. Oh, man.
Jonte Cook, like, just now is coming out. So there's going to have to be some smoke cleared with him. I'm not totally sure. Key's weird. He's been in the portal for a while now.
Yeah, I don't know anybody about these. I don't know about Whitey Willoughby from Texas A&M. I don't know about any of these guys that are in the portal, man. They'll go in the spring and they'll do this or do that, and then I'll make an opinion. Last year, this year, I had no idea who Elijah Badger and DK. I didn't know who Ricky Pearsall was before he came to Florida.
I knew who Badger and Pearsall were because Florida's built this Arizona State pipeline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know their name, but I don't know anything about them, so I'm not going to talk about them.
Zach, wide receivers, just to hopefully answer your question a little bit, wide receivers, I think they're going to get one of these guys. Key would make perfect sense for this offense. He's been in college football for a couple of years. He's caught a lot of passes. I know I think he's still taking visits and stuff. So we'll have to see. Like, Dylan and I are going to have a clear answer for you on like where he's leaning or anything like that. I wish we did, but would love to see someone like him. I think he'd make a lot of sense. Like I said, for this offense, reliable guy that I think could just be a good addition for what else is in the room. Receiver's going to shake itself out. They're going to get one guy, if not two, if I had to guess. And the guy that I'm really eyeing, though, and I know he hasn't made a decision yet, I know he's been leaning toward USC, is Keyshawn Silver on the defensive line from Kentucky. That's the dude that I really want Florida to go get. By the time we've been doing this podcast, he could have committed. Who knows? But I know he was available as of last night still, and that's the guy I'm really eyeing. They need somebody to replace the Cam Jackson sized hole that is heading to the draft. So That's the guy I've really been eyeing in the portal.
All right, I got to roll. We'll give you all a show Friday afternoon right after the Gator game goes final, and we will raise a glass to the 2024 season.
And then we're pivoting to basketball, right?
Yeah, yes. We'll preview who do they play after North Carolina?
I'm not completely sure. I've been really thinking about this game for the most part.
Yeah.
I thought about going to this game. I got a bunch of family up in Charlotte. But, dude, a Tuesday is just tough.
Yeah.
If this is a Friday or Saturday, I probably would have gone. But Tuesday, it's like, man, what am I supposed to do? Drive up to Charlotte, go to the game, and then because I got to be there. I got to be at work tomorrow. What am I going to do? Drive home?
Yeah.
So
they got the North Florida Ospreys on Saturday.
That's right. I knew they were playing UNF soon. I didn't know when exactly, but
noon. Yeah, it'll be a good game to watch tonight. I mean, North Carolina 6-4. They're not ranked, but I mean they've had a tough schedule. So,
Zach, Carolina is super talented, but they've disappointed so far this year. They're just kind of soft. Their bigs don't get after it like Florida's bigs do. So when they're not shooting well, they just don't play well. That's pretty much how it is. I watch basically every Carolina game, and I love RJ Davis. I love Elliot Cadeau, but when those guys aren't hitting threes, it's almost impossible for them to win. I think against a team like Florida that likes to bang and has some fight to them, and Florida likes to win the street fight. That's a big reason they're undefeated right now. Carolina's gonna will. I think Florida wins this game pretty handily, actually.
All right, there you go. We'll see y'all Friday night. Until then, peace.